The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here on a Wednesday morning because our very special guest that we're going to share with you in just a few moments is Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, a true expert and a visionary in the field of autism. She joins us on Wednesday mornings for a segment called Ask Dr. Doreen, where we're going to be taking your questions live. You can, Emily's going to cycle through all the different ways that you can watch the show. I'm going to remind you that there's only one way that you can watch us live. That's at www.autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a white box. You put your cursor there. You can type whatever you'd like, hit enter, and it magically appears here on our screen, and we can ask Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh your question in real time. There is no login. There is no charge. There's no credit card. We don't even have your personal information. In fact, if you want for us to get back to you in writing, you'll have to include some information about how we do that. We don't share your personal information on the screen. I have a way of editing that out. But it's all anonymous unless you make it otherwise. So without further ado, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Our very special guest, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, is here. Welcome, and thank you for being here. This is a
pleasure,
thrill.
always. Thank you.
This is a wonderful opportunity for our viewers to ask you questions, but we want to remind everybody that you don't give child-specific advice.
Right, yeah.
Very good reason for that. That would be a disservice to our kids, right? There's no way that you could get, even as good as you are, they couldn't give you as much information as you would need to be able to give child-specific advice.
Right, and we have to be clear about that. It wouldn't be fair to assume that we're giving advice that really does pertain to any child or any given child. We do our best.
Yeah.
I have actually received a couple of emails that I'm going to try to get to from families who've sent me more specific detail after the show. And I just want to say that, my heart's in the right place. I really do want to answer the questions, but I do get about 400 emails a day internally at CARD, and it's just really hard for me to keep up. So I will get to them.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We're going to start out today with a question about kinds of things to do over the summer. So, dear Dr. Doreen, my daughter was just diagnosed with autism, age 5. Her deficits are mostly social. Do I do ABA this summer or just put her in a social skills class?
Okay, you do ABA this summer. It's like anything else, I guess, Shannon. Like if your child doesn't do well in, let's say, math or something, you would probably start with getting tutoring before you put the child in a group doing math or something. Mm-hmm. So the attention that you get and the specific lessons that are important for your child, it's just better to do ABA. And I think it's also important that you don't just do ABA, just general ABA, because a lot of folks in ABA don't really know how to address the social curriculum or the area of functioning that we call social functioning. So for this parent, I really do recommend that you check into skills, maybe even just do the demo, just so that you can see the different things that are in the social curriculum, because I think it's our largest curriculum now, and it has There's just so much to teach, and it's such complicated stuff. It's not really done in the standard sit-down discrete trial format. Some of the basic stuff might be done that way, but most of it is stuff that you will want your child to learn in more of a cognitive sense, and then natural environment training, kind of stuff that the child can interact with their environment appropriately. So I think it's really important to check out the skills curriculum, because you will need to have good content. While the technique used will be sort of broader ABA techniques, the content is very important. You do not want to have an ABA program for a high-functioning child working on just social skills. That's just pure, let's say, basic labels and things like that. That's not going to help. You're going to want to go into more conversational language and more advanced things. Having said that, a lot of it's unusual. I don't want to make any assumptions here, but it's unusual to get diagnosed at 5 and then to go head straight into just social. Usually when your child is diagnosed, the reason the child has some social deficits is because there's language deficits. So you might need to also do the assessment on skills for the language area and see if there are actually language deficits, because it's very difficult to try to teach our kids to do things like social conversation or any of the social lessons when they really are still having problems with basic language.
Yeah.
So one depends on the other.
So your answer has sprung a lot of questions up in my head.
Okay.
First of all, for those of you who are joining us and it's your first time or your second time watching, we refer to the skills program. You can get there as skillsforautism.com. It's a lovely online tool that encompasses the entire curriculum of what is done for therapy at CARD. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a number of things. I mean, it starts with an assessment. So you answer all these questions about your child, and the program just gives you questions that are age appropriate for your child. So first you put in demographics like age and so on, and it'll present you with things that a typical child of that same age should be doing, and will ask you whether your child does those things. And anything that you say, no, my child can't do this, will then connect to a lesson, and the lesson is very detailed and will tell you exactly how to teach it and promote it in the natural environment. Some of the programs also have video clips to show you exactly how to teach it, but the main thing is that it is very, very, very comprehensive. So it will go through several domains, including language, social, play, cognitive, executive functioning, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes through pretty much every area of functioning. So it's the best that we could put out there for families in terms of, and for teachers, and we have a lot of professionals using it as well, because ABA is a series of techniques. The content is very important. You can use those techniques, but how do I get a child who's, let's say, nonverbal all the way up to normal? And that's 100 steps, and you have to kind of follow them in the right order in terms of teaching content.
And so that's the curriculum. Those are the lessons.
Exactly.
And that was going to be my next question, because what we're seeing now in this wonderful landscape of 33 states now that have insurance reform, and we go, woohoo, this is fabulous. But what we're starting to see, and what I'm really hearing overwhelmingly from parents, is that ABA is not the same in different places by different providers.
Yeah, that's very, very true. So, the basic definition of ABA would mean that you are, and a lot of people are using now board-certified people, BCBAs, and you are generally trained in behavioral techniques. It's sort of a subsection of psychology, but it's all behavior analysis. And really that means that you know how to change behavior. You learn techniques that teach you how to modify behavior. Which means a lot of the behaviorists out there will be very good at trying to help you identify ways to decrease problem behaviors like tantrums or aggression and so on. And they also will hopefully know how to teach skills in one of the ABA formats where our kids understand it very well. So discrete trial is the most popular one. which is really just a very standard format that you present an instruction to the child and you make sure the child is successful 1 out of 3 times at least. And you prompt it, you make it easier, you make it harder, and you give more reinforcer, that sort of thing. So it has a series of techniques that go around it. You break things down into very, very small chunks so that the child can learn them, and then you chain them together, all these different techniques. But, you know, as I said, a lot of people still follow a couple of textbooks that are out there. And those textbooks are very limited in the actual skills that they teach. So it'll be very easy for any behaviorist to teach your child something like labels of objects, or, you know, prepositions, or those basic things that we wrote 20 years ago. But that's a whole different story than teaching the child, you know, how to enter a conversation with a group of children, how to stay on topic, how to repair the conversation when people start walking away, how to pay attention to social cues like children becoming disinterested, all, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's millions of things that are very advanced concepts, obviously, that we want to teach our kids, and most ABA professionals don't really know how to do those. And so that's why the content or the curriculum becomes very important.
Right.
And in our program, in the skills program, it really does detail the steps. So if you go into, let's say, social conversation, it's going to tell you that your child needs to have these prerequisites already in place. So certain aspects of pragmatic language have to be present, and if they're not, you go back to that lesson, and, you know, you start from the beginning and you just sort of build upon. Otherwise, it's just, it's like, it's too complex. It's like trying to teach a child calculus when they don't understand basic math.
Yeah. So am I oversimplifying it if I say that ABA is the teaching technique?
Yes.
But it's equally important that you understand how to do the techniques and then having the proven steps in which to teach them, which is the curriculum.
Yeah, and it's not really even, I guess that's correct, but let me just build on that. ABA is a series of techniques, right?
Okay.
So the things like shaping and chaining and discriminative, there's like hundreds and hundreds of techniques that come together, and they're all ways that we will modify behavior, things to do that you can change someone's behavior. You can increase it or you can decrease it. Now, with challenging behaviors, we use techniques to reduce them. With skill teaching, we use techniques to increase those, right? Areas that are deficient. But, and then sort of groups of these techniques, clusters of these techniques have been called different things. So, for instance, discrete trial training is let's say, a protocol that involves things like, you know, the discrete trial, reinforcement, of course, short instructions, shaping, chaining, all of these go into the discrete trial protocol. There's other protocols within ABA. So pivotal response training is a protocol, a natural environment training is a protocol. There are some other, and they're slightly different in that they pick and choose different techniques to produce what they are. But nevertheless, they're all ABA. Now, so I could be an expert in ABA, and I would still, let's say I look at a child and I say, okay, I want to teach this child how to tell jokes, right? And I won't know necessarily what my content is, what my material is. How do you go about doing that? You know all the techniques of changing behavior, but you don't know, you haven't done really a good task analysis or a breakdown of the task of telling jokes or telling lies, those types of things. And so in order to do that, you need to have a whole different, I guess, you know, encyclopedia, which is really the curriculum and skills.
Okay, so it's the two separate components.
Right.
But you have created things that people can use at home to be able to have access to both of those things.
That's right.
So for to learn the techniques of ABA, all those techniques, and to understand all those things, if you thought your head was going to explode when she was saying shaping and chaining and all those things, you thought, I don't know how to do, and a lot more. If that all seems very far away and you don't know what to do about it, you can take classes
on
from
IBT.
Yes, Institute for Behavioral Training,
right?
And you can learn all those things
in
a very easy way at home. You don't have to go to the library or go to the bookstore or go to the university. You can do it at home on your computer, very inexpensively.
Oh yeah, and it's not. I don't want to make it sound like it's overwhelming. It's not. I mean, especially for parents, we've made a whole series just for parents. And we've made another series just for teachers, and then another series for professionals, which is much harder and much longer. The concept with the series for professionals is essentially we're trying to teach everything that you need to know. It would prepare you for the BCBA exam. I mean, it's very, very detailed and comprehensive, but for parents and teachers, their use of ABA techniques is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So it's much more non-technical language. And as you said, Shannon, it is short modules that you can pick. And you can start with, what is autism? And then you can go and look into what is actually ABA, and then the subdivisions of ABA, and how do I handle challenging behaviors, and how do I teach skills, and all the different modalities. And there's a lot there.
Yes.
So,
and it's very accessible. I have to say that again and again and again, because my husband has been doing some of the different learnings, and he is one of those people that he wants to learn techniques to be able to help his child, and he wants to get better at that constantly. But getting him to sit and listen, sometimes when I talk, he goes, "You know what? You're over my head. You gotta." And he's been doing fine on the IBT trainings. And I have to point out too, when we say they're really affordable and inexpensive, sometimes people say that, and I go, "Well, what's affordable and inexpensive to you?" It's $7.50 for some of the trainings. So
7, 10, 12. I think they don't go beyond that.
Yeah.
They're very low cost.
Yeah. So it's when I say affordable, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So that's the component of learning all those techniques that you were talking about, and understanding what it is that you need to do to be able to teach. But there's still that whole other component that you need the lessons, because who wants to reinvent that wheel?
Oh, absolutely. And the sort of the process of developing skills for me was I was just not able to help all the families that were getting in touch with us, and we had all these wait lists, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do something about this. So why don't I start publishing our lessons? So we first started organizing these into series of 8 really big books. And as we started doing that, I realized, okay, well, this is all technical language. Like, a parent is not even going to know what an SD or an SR or whatever are these technical terms. And how am I going to give them sort of the basic knowledge so that they can access this stuff? And then I thought, all right, so it's one thing to give them the encyclopedia. The other thing is just teach them the techniques, which is when we started developing the e-learning and all the video-based learning things that are modules that are on IBT. And then after I did that, I realized, okay, well, I don't want every parent to think they have to teach every single lesson in here. There's over 4,000 lessons in there. And I need them to be able to assess their child in a way that the lessons that they pick are very, very specific just for their child. So which is when we spent a few years developing the assessment or the skills index. So, all of it together, I think, gives you all the tools you need. You should learn the techniques, and then you should take your time and respond to the assessment. And that will really give you a fabulous baseline or a picture of where your child currently is. And not just across social skills, but across every domain.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is really awesome. I agree. It's a little... I think sometimes parents get a little bit scared because it's overwhelming. It does take some of your time to answer these questions, especially if your child's older or higher functioning. But it is very useful. And actually, over the summer vacation, I'm going to be setting up what I consider to be Skills 2.0. I'm revamping a lot of it and trying to produce formats that are much easier. First of all, I know parents want to be able to pick areas and not have to do all, or I want to be able to give them portals where they can just use one area, like language or social or cognitive. And I also want to just make it much more easy for parents to just select specific lessons and download them and print them, so they don't have to become a member of Skills if they just want to purchase one lesson.
Interesting.
If you are a member of Skills, which is also, I think, pretty affordable, it's $75 a month for a single parent.
Although, there's a sale right now.
There's a sale right now still. That's right. We extended the sale, so I think... I'm not sure how much off it is. Do you know?
It is 20% off.
20% off. So, you know...
But that is only until the end of May.
Right.
So,
and when we were pricing this in the beginning, a lot of the parents that kind of came to our focus group said they thought it should be something like $250 a month.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to make it really affordable for people, so we brought it all the way down to $75. And that's if you're one family, and if you have other families and you're a group of people, you can purchase a larger contract, which goes all the way down to like $20 a month, you know, depending on the size. So it is really a very, very useful tool. It's sort of like the WebMD for autism and ABA.
Yes.
It gives you an answer to, it has search functions, it produces reports, it gives you IEP goals, it allows you to track. I mean, a lot of what I'm adding, and not to mention that currently, if you become a member right now, the BIP builder is on there as well.
Yes.
So there's a descriptive functional assessment on there where you answer questions about behavior, and that leads to a behavior intervention plan, a BIP. So you can produce a behavior intervention plan and deal with exactly everything you have to do for the child's challenging behaviors as well. So it does give you a ton of resources.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's so comprehensive that sometimes it might scare parents or just like overwhelm them, and I have to figure out a way to subdivide it so that it's a lot easier. Or sometimes you may, you know, I don't think it's good for parents to be exposed to all of it. It's just too much. It's too...
Well, the thing that I've taken to saying to parents is get used to the idea that it's this big thing and that you will exhaust yourself trying to use every portion of it on the first day.
That's true.
So pick what you need right now.
Right.
Prioritize in your head, what do you need right now, and focus on that aspect of it, because the truth of the matter is there are so many different ways to use it. And I say all the time here, I'm a big fan of skills and I'm a user of skills, but where I'm at now in my life, I'm using it in probably a different way than a lot of people, because I'm using it for my IEPs. I'm checking the BIP that the school gives with it. I'm going in with IEP language to my IEP and saying, here's a lesson I want you to add, because I know it's skill appropriate and age appropriate. And it has saved me an ulcer, I think.
Well, I mean, a lot of times you tell me that you also just pick specific areas that you want Jem to work on, for instance. But you see, the thing for me is that I still think, being a parent myself and having 3 kids, we're all so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that everybody's life is as crazy as mine, but perhaps it is. I don't know. I mean, and it is, we don't, you know, if someone came to me, let's say, and said, I want to give you now something that will probably take you about 5 to 10 hours just to acclimate to this software, I say, okay, thanks, I don't have time. It's like right now when I receive emails that are more than a paragraph long, it goes on hold because I don't have the time at that moment to deal with it. So I worry about parents there's not a lot of parents that are like you in terms of, you know, being really willing and able to infuse themselves into the system. If you are a parent, and as you know, we have a lot of parents who use it and actually even promote it to other parents, and they love it. Yeah. But it really it is a certain type of person who can do that, and the rest of the population are more like me, where it's kind of like, give me something really easy and step by step. Yes, I want to do stuff for my kid, but this is overwhelming. Yeah. So I'm going to try to just make it as, you know, we're doing a lot of things right now. As you know, the DSM-5 came out. Yes. So what we're doing is we're also going to infuse some questions that will allow the parent to confirm or not confirm, I don't know what the opposite of that is, reject their child's diagnosis. So that'll help. And then from there, I think, and I don't know, I would really appreciate feedback from families who are on skills, but I'm thinking once you've done that, the system should really ask you, what do you want? Yeah. Like, do you want training? And we'll take you to the IBT site, and you can, these are the ones we recommend you start with. Or do you want to assess your child now? And, or do you want to, what areas do you want to focus on? I mean, we have children who are, you know, 15, let's say, and the parent is really just interested in, that's either vocational skills on the one end, or they're interested in college prep skills, you know, those types of things. And we should be able to direct parents to specifically where they want to go. rather than this huge supermarkets where you have to kind of find your way.
Amazing stuff. But of course, we recommend both of those places. You can go to ibehavioraltraining.com and you can go to skillsforautism.com.
And all of that's also on the Center for Autism website as well.
You can go to the bottom of the first page and find all of that there. All right, we are going to take a short break and we'll come back with more questions for Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides programs to educate students, parents, and professionals proven techniques using applied behavior analysis. Access online video lessons with IBT e-learning. Get one-on-one personalized instruction with IBT face-to-face training. Acquire professional guidance with IBT BCBA supervision. Develop professional growth with IBT continuing education courses. Get access to IBT services today. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have our next question here. It's about seizures. Where can I get good information about seizures? A friend found out that her child was having seizures in his sleep. How would I know if my child were having them? Are there signs?
Well, there's always signs for seizures, but they're not signs that are easy to pick up, especially if it's during sleep. So, I mean, when we start talking about seizures, I think it's very important to get in touch with a neurologist. That is really important because seizure activity will have a huge impact on learning. And so,
should everyone do that though, or are there symptoms that your child would have that would say to you that you need to?
You know, during wake hours, one of the things that we see often with kids is they will kind of space out, and for periods of time where you can't even, they're really gone, you know, so they're kind of like
snap them out of it,
right? And they're gone for, and it could be, excuse me, very short periods of time. But you have to be able to identify that, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes other people notice it. If anyone points out to you that they think your child is like spacing out a lot, or here's another one, is losing skills they've already mastered. So that's a big one. If you find that the child masters something and then a week later or whatever it's gone, then that could also be seizure activity. Anything that resembles sort of a blackout period is very important. If your child is at the level where they can recall past events and they have periods of time they don't remember, that of course is very important. Waking up multiple times during the night most of the time ends up being something else. It ends up being like behavioral issues or maybe even pain related, but not seizures. But having said that, that is probably something that you want to check out.
So rule it out.
I know that it's not easy to actually go and get a neurological test, but it's not as hard as people think either. I mean, if you see I guess you would start with a pediatrician perhaps, or if you have access to your neurologist, you would go see a neurologist, and really the first thing you're going to want to do is an EEG, and that's not that complicated. You're not going to be doing it right off the bat, things like fMRIs. It's just an EEG, and if you're particularly scared of or worried about the evening or the nighttime, then they do a sleep EEG. So, and there are sleep centers around the country that do this. I know UCLA does this. A lot of the bigger universities have these programs where they will actually have the child stay there overnight and they will have an EEG to monitor their sleep. It's important. It's very important because seizure activity is the activity of the brain, and so it's really important to do that.
I imagine that that's just that much harder. I know I had to go do a sleep study, and you're in a foreign place.
It's hard,
and you got all these clippies on your hair. It's not painful or anything, but to go to sleep.
Right.
I remember saying, and now I'm supposed to sleep with with the dreadlocks of wires in my hair and a strange bed, strange pillow, and I imagine with a child on the autism spectrum, it can seem overwhelming, but it's important to do.
Well, and there's other things you can do first of all, what I always tell our parents, and that's because there's so many benefits to doing ABA just aside from the fact that the child's learning. One of the benefits is you can use ABA to measure other things, that's why we have the clinical timeline on skills, going back to that, but It's so if you give a medication and you want to see whether or not your child is doing better on it, it's pretty subjective usually, except that if you have an ABA program and you're taking data on how fast your child learns things and you introduce a medication, it might have an effect one way or another. And trust me, with the detail of data that ABA people take, you'll see it.
Yeah.
You'll definitely see whether this medication improved the challenging behaviors and the skill acquisition, or it didn't have an effect. So if you think of that in kind of technical terms, ABA is an intervention, which means in technical terms it's what's considered an independent variable. It's the thing that actually makes a difference. But at the same time, your child's learning at a certain rate, right? Every child learns at a different rate. And that rate of learning is really also a dependent variable. It's sort of the outcome. If you think of your typical children or anyone that's learning, when do we actually start to worry about them is when their learning is slower than their peers, right? When they start to not be able to master things at school, when they have issues that are problematic, all those types of things. So I always tell people, use your rate of acquisition in ABA, how fast my child is learning, as a tool that helps you identify other things. Okay. If your child has seizures, believe me, their rate of acquisition is going to be either all over the place, up, down, or they're just going to be flat. They're not going to be learning. So what I always tell our parents is, don't really mess with anything. I'm not just even talking about seizures. I'm talking about anything else, like dietary change. You don't necessarily need to start worrying about things if your child's doing great.
Right.
If your child's learning tons and tons of things in ABA, in good ABA, and they're just progressing and catching up with their peers, leave it alone, right? Things are going great. But if your child has these plateaus, or if your child really is not, things are not moving ahead, then you have to start questioning everything. And that would be sleep, seizures, dietary change, biomedical, the quality of ABA, everything, pain, GI issues, everything. And you have to figure out why the child isn't moving.
Because there should be constant progress.
There should be constant growth. If you have good quality ABA, you should have, it's like having tutoring, right? You should have significant growth.
I think that's really important what you just said, because I think a lot of times the mentality of the autism parent is you're desperate, right? You don't know where you're going to end up. You're desperate. Then you see a bit of improvement and you become afraid to monkey if you get to a plateau. I hear that from parents a lot, and I've experienced that myself, where I'm like, like we were doing so well there, we got to a plateau. I don't want to break what was working. Like maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and we kind of get ourselves into paralysis, afraid to change something because we were seeing progress for a while.
Right. But I encourage parents to actually look at it as sort of investigative surgery type thing, right? You don't know. Even with typically developing kids, you're not going to know what issues they have unless you're involved in their lives, unless you know exactly how they're doing on every single quiz and test, how they're doing with their friends, how they're doing, whatever it is. And the beauty of skills or some measurement of these things is that it allows you to actually see how your child's doing in every single area. And that is critical, right, Shannon? I mean, it's like if you have an idea, and it's much more complicated than what I just sort of tried to summarize, because when I look at the trajectory of sort of a child's acquisition rate, which I look at a lot of data from a lot of kids, right? And that's, I don't want to keep going back to skills, but the biggest reason we produced skills was to help parents. And then beyond that, we have, once you have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 children's patterns on here, you can start doing what's called a cluster analysis. So we're beginning to look at clusters of kids, which means kids that come in with sort of the same demographics, and they start to progress in the same pattern, and then that allows us to subdivide autism and say, oh, look, here's another child coming in, and they have the same demographics, so they're going to definitely go through this pattern, and we need to make modifications ahead of time for them to be the most successful, because we've learned from other kids.
Absolutely.
So, but the thing about it is, if you have a child and their learning rate is pretty good to begin with, and then all of a sudden it hits a plateau, the very first thing I would do is look at technique, because most often it has something to do with the actual ABA process. And those will be things like, is there enough reinforcement for the child? Is he getting bored? Is the pace fast enough? Is the stimulus, or the stimuli that are being presented, of a form that is perceivable for that child, because children see things very differently. Some of our kids have sensory issues, the majority of our kids do. So a child might be able to focus very well when you're on basic levels of programming and you're dealing with visual stimuli, but they're not going to do very well when you're dealing with like abstract thoughts or abstract concepts that are not visual. So is this one of those, is this child not slowing down just because we don't have as many visual stimuli in the program, or are the visual stimuli too small or too close? Or so there's a lot to check when a child plateaus, a lot of things. In fact, it makes me think I should probably do a checklist of these things, because there's a lot. And once you have gone through and you've determined, no, I've modified my ABA program, it's really the best I can do for this child, then you start looking at things like sleep. Well, I mean, sleep is going to have a huge impact on the child's ability to learn. Health, in general, like, is the child actually, having 3 times a day diarrhea, which obviously means that he might be dehydrated, or he's not able to focus, maybe he's bloated, those types of things. And you look at things that are even more effective, like seizure activity or what. And all of that is a step-by-step adjustment. It's kind of like dosing, So you've adjusted your ABA, it's good, and the amount is good. The quality is good, and the amount is good, because I want to touch that quickly, because so many parents will tell me, I did ABA, it didn't work. And then you find out, like, I have that right now with some of my parents who will email me and say, I do 1 hour of ABA a week. I mean, it just
makes me want to
forget it. Right. So ABA dosage has to be pretty intensive if you are really trying to teach a child a lot of things, right? And so, is the amount right? Is the quality good? Am I really getting through to the child in terms of the sensory issues of the child? Is the child sleeping? Does he have other medical issues that I need to fix? Are there seizures? Is there pain involved? Does he have anxiety? All of that sort of has to be controlled so that the child's in their maximum kind of learning cycle.
Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. I want a checklist now.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly should make a checklist, because it makes me think that it would help a lot of providers, because they would one by one go through these and figure out, like, what have I not done? It more often than not, and I will say almost always, has nothing really to do with a child's intelligence. The children are very intelligent and they learn these things. It has to do with how they receive information. So that's really important.
And that we can manipulate.
You can manipulate, and you must manipulate as a behaviorist. That's part of your job.
That's powerful. That's something that we can get behind and push. That's a wonderful thing. All right, let's take another break, and we'll come back with another question. Stick with us for more Ask Dr. Doreen.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have a question that has come in about a 9-year-old. So thank you for all you do. Where can I go to find help with a 9-year-old who does not speak, only grunts, and has many tantrums?
Okay. That's a really good question. Thank you for being sort of just general about it. That's really important because your focus on things change quite significantly when you're talking about a child who's 9 years old and doesn't have any language and grunts and has tantrums, because you're not anymore focused on trying to teach this child everything they need to know for normal functioning. What you're doing, because it's just impossible at the age of 9, by the time you can't teach that many concepts. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make this child as functional and adaptive as he or she can possibly be. So your focus is very different. And the very first thing, and this is with any child, any age, is to make sure that the child is able to communicate what's important to them.
Yeah.
Now, a child who has no language will probably not be able to communicate all the things that they want or need. I would guess that this child, for instance, if they want something, they might take the parent by the hand to the object, or they might at best point to the object or try to reach it, or if they're 9, they might have already mastered how to reach those objects. But objects are just objects. What if the child wants activities? What if the child wants to go someplace, want to be with someone, is thirsty, whatever? It's a million things, has pain, etc.
Right.
And
the parent who said, I'd like to know what my child wants on his baked potato.
Yeah,
you know?
There you go.
I mean,
right. I mean, all of this stuff. So it's extremely important for this child to get a communication system. Now, he's nonverbal at 9, so it's not really fast enough to want to try to get language. And this is the point that you really want to go into a visual program of communication, and especially if the child has tantrums. That tells me that he's frustrated, right? Because all of these behaviors are, any challenging behavior is just a form of frustration. It's just saying, I can't get across what it is I want or what it is I want to avoid, and so I'm going to tantrum, because when I tantrum, first of all, I'm frustrated that you guys don't understand. I tantrum, and then people kind of let me have what I want, or they allow me to avoid what it is I don't want to do. So this is extremely important for this child to have some level of communication ability, and I really recommend either a PEG system or any kind of augmentative device where the child can, and all the kids are different. Some of our kids only do well with icons, pictures of things. Others do well with written word because they learn to memorize words very fast. We use very often with our kids, we will start out with a PEGS program, transfer to an augmentative device, transfer to an iPad with Proloquo, the software, and then transfer further into like an iPhone, or a lot of our kids are just keyboarding what they want now. But it's very, very important to get really good supervision on this, really good advice on how to do this. I currently myself have 2 kids that I do this with. Their ages are different. You know, one is actually an adult and one is a 9-year-old, and I'm setting these systems up for my kids. They're both relatively new to our system because they're frustrated. Because they're frustrated. So your real focus with this child is no longer, let me teach him language or social skills or whatever. Your first focus is really, let me help him communicate with the world so his frustration goes down, so he's actually a little bit calmer, happier, and able to learn. And then you'll go on and start teaching other skills. But the very first thing is to put in a visual system of teaching so that the child can just learn things visually and can begin to communicate. And there's so many rules about this, Shannon, that I wouldn't even be able to go through them here. But I guess the most important thing about this is that the system that you put in place has to be so easy for the child to use that they use it instead of tantruming. Okay, it has to be easier than putting effort into tantruming.
That's got to be the key.
And that's the key. And in order to make something that easy, you have to start out with what we call MANDs in behavioral terminology, which means the child's requests. And pivotal response also talks about this. It's the pivotal request or response. So it's like the thing that the child wants the most. And so those requests, those items that the child wants, you put those first, and the child, all they have to do is, let's say, press a button or touch an icon, and they must get the object. So you have to be careful with that because those things have to be available. So once you get this idea to the child that this action is going to help you, then learning becomes fast, and the child actually stops tantruming because now they can get their stuff across.
And
so that's the very. And this parent said, "Where can I get help?" I don't know what state the parent is in. I know that we have specific people who are specialists in just setting this system up, and if you need help from us, you can certainly get in touch with us. I mean, I think in order for you to get this the fastest, I would probably just send me an email. And I will forward it to our remote services. And like, for instance, one of our senior trainers, Sue Cho, she is amazing, and I ask her to come and work with my kids because she just knows this stuff so well. She's taken so many kids from severe behavior to full communication on these systems. So yeah, I mean, and we have a couple of other people who know this system very well. So yeah, I would really encourage that you get on a visual system.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I thank you so much for being here today and answering these questions. And we're going to take a break and go to the A Word. This is the amazing ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, as he begins his early intensive behavioral intervention. Take a look. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
What are that? No. I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Jack Riley has been scripting a lot. He's repeating lines from movies, practicing speaking, which is great, but his use of language is not appropriate because no one understands what he's saying. Everyone has been working on redirecting his language to say things that are more appropriate and conversational.
Hey, ladies.
No, try again. Say, hey, ladies.
Let's play.
Jack, can you say, I'm excited?
I'm excited to play.
There you go. Okay.
I will play Jessica's house.
Okay, that's it.
Where is it?
There you go. It is.
Jessica has been working on WH questions such as where.
I will play the iPod.
Okay, go get it. Go get the iPod.
Where's?
Who.
Who's there?
What.
What is it?
There we go. It's iced coffee.
Why.
Why are wearing glasses?
I'm pretending I need them so I can see you better.
That's funny.
These words accelerate his learning by giving him language to ask for info.
Oh, I just want to be silly. Am I silly?
You need WH questions for conversational skills, comprehension, perspective taking, and problem solving.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Suzanne. What's your name?
Gray.
What color are your eyes?
Are blue.
How about mine? What color are my eyes?
Are brown.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm here at the Taka Family Picnic with my family. Yay! There are so many fun things to do and see here, and we're going to get started right now. We're going to go get our picture taken. Stick with us. Okay, so we just got our family photo done. Let's go see what else they have fun to do here at the Taka Family Fun Picnic. Come on, you guys, let's go. You said you watch our little show?
Yeah.
We love you, Diane! We are here with Kristen Selby Gonzalez, and you are a mom. You're a parent of a child on the spectrum?
Absolutely. He was diagnosed when he was 2 years, 4 months, and he's 11 now.
And how's he doing?
He's doing awesome. We were told he was never going to look, he was never going to talk, that the best thing we could do was get him to use a spoon and a fork and to get him potty trained by the time he was 8 because the doctors told us he'd be in a group home. And today he's looking, he's talking more, he's riding a bike. Yes, he's potty trained. He does gymnastics twice a week. He's learning to read and write, and the sky's really the limit for him.
Now, I understand that you also work with a foundation that helps and supports Taka.
I was appointed as president and chairman of a nonprofit called the Autism Hope Alliance.
So cool, and it all sprang from being a mom.
It all sprang from my little boy. I mean, honestly, he is the voice. I just kind of get to do the legwork, but it's him pushing me. I had 3 miscarriages before him. He is my only child, and to me, this is like what I'm here to do right now. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's the greatest reward when I have another mom come up to me who just recently got diagnosed and says, I need help. And so as veterans out here, that's what we call ourselves. We've been here for a while, right? Our job is to help those other moms understand they don't have to reinvent the wheel. The path has already been laid, and all they have to do is kind of follow the path and see what makes sense for them.
Amen, sister. Amen. Right now, I am with the Riley family, a wonderful Taka proud family. We're with the mom, Holly, daughter, Fiona, and Quinn, who's down there. Tell us what Taka means to you.
I've been helped so much by other parents who came before us with our journey with autism, and we've been so fortunate that Quinn has done so well. He's considered recovered from autism. We're really happy to be able to volunteer and help out because, you know, we've gotten so much from the other families.
And I want to know, as a sibling, is this a really fun event for you?
Oh my gosh, it is so fun. Plus the samples. It's not usual that I have all this food that I can eat this and I can eat this.
Do you keep the whole family GFCF?
Yeah, it's important to know Fiona is gluten-free, casein-free. We're also soy-free. Quinn can't do corn, so we've got lots of foods we're always avoiding, and it's really nice to be able to be in a place where we can just sample a lot of things, and you know, you still have to be careful.
Can I go play now, please?
I love that, please. Tell me one thing. What's your favorite thing at this picnic?
The jousting and the bounce house, period.
Good answer. All right, go have fun and play.
My name is Summer Dabbs. I'm here from Fullerton Cares, and we are at the Taka Family Picnic event today. Fullerton Cares is an autism coalition, and we strive to bring awareness, acceptance, and action, meaning fundraising, to all resources for autism, especially the Fullerton School District autism programs. We're here to provide the food for all the guests at the picnic. We have GFCF options for those who require that diet, and we also have killer epic burritos for everyone else. We are also offering frozen bananas, chocolate-covered bananas that are absolutely fabulous. So we're here to help out Taka and donate some food for the cause.
What I'm here with is Beauty Society. We've got the families thinking about what they're putting in their bodies, but we also need to think about what we're putting on our skin. And what's really something is there's a lot of chemicals, a lot of toxins out there that we're trying to get rid of. Our skin is absorbing that. So Beauty Society is here because we have a lot of things that we don't put in them. We don't put parabens, there's no sulfates, there's no perfume. It's also gluten-free. Some other things that I have, of course, is makeup, which is always fun. And I love teaching teenagers, especially kids on the spectrum, how to take care of their skin. Because what we find is a lot of the kids tend to have more acne that are on the spectrum. And I want to teach them things that they can use for the rest of their life.
Lauren Kim is here with us, and you were just telling me that you have a really nice position. Tell me what your position is.
Hi, I'm the president of Troy High School's Autism Youth Ambassadors. The AYA mission is to break down the barriers between those with autism and those without. And
you said you've been doing this for 3 years. Who started this? Whose idea was it, and why did they come up with the idea?
Two amazing people. They were the founders. Their names are Ralph and Minaj. They've come up with the idea because they were personally affected with family members who had autism. Our advisor, Mrs. Laval, she has a son with autism. They came up to her and asked to start an autism awareness club at school.
Did you get involved because friends of yours got involved, or is there autism in your family, or did you know somebody?
Well, there is autism in my life, not specifically in my family, but of course my mother's friends, sons are affected, and even my personal friends are affected at school.
One of the best things about coming to an event like this is getting to meet people that you've only talked to on Facebook or an email. And so I'm so thrilled because I just got to meet Nancy Dulai.
Hi, do you want to talk?
You want to say something to us?
Megabag. I have no idea what that was, but okay.
You're a mom who has been on this journey only a short period of time, but you're already giving back. You were here today and you did face painting for all these kids. We saw all this beautiful artwork.
Did you like it?
It was gorgeous. Gorgeous stuff on their face. And so you're making your way on this journey.
Yes. And Card and Skills has been a huge, and your show has been huge. And I refer everybody to them. I'm like, if they don't know what to do, I'm like, go check this out. It's a good site. It's, lots of information. It's been great.
So nice to meet you.
Can you say bye, Shannon?
Do you blow kisses?
Can you give a kiss? She wants to kiss you. She's trying to reach over. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I just want a programming note. I mentioned this last week. The Ask Dr. Doreen that you saw this morning was a pre-recorded. It was a new one that we've never aired before, but it was a pre-recorded episode. I believe that we're back doing live episodes next week, but I'll give you more updates about that as the week continues. In just a few minutes, we are going to start Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, with Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, who is stuck in traffic and may be joining us a little bit late. But a couple of programming notes that I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of. First of all, if you're just joining us, I want to remind you that there is a forum on this website, www.autism-live.com. There's a white box. Type your answers in, hit enter, and they appear magically on my screen in real time. You don't have to log in. There is no credit card information required. We don't ask your name even. We're not going to put you on a mailing list. We don't even know what your email address is. In fact, if you need for us to get back to you with something, like there's a study that you wanted access to or more information about something, or you had a question you wanted to talk about off air, because I know sometimes you guys would rather talk off air. We're willing to do that too. Then you do need to include your email, because otherwise we have no idea who you are or where you are, right? And if you do include your email or private information, I have a way of editing that before we show it to the public audience. So please know that you can put that in there, but I bring home the message that when you go onto that site, it's completely anonymous, so you can feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. And I hope that you do. I really hope that you do. I had a wonderful conversation just a few minutes ago with somebody that had called to ask for information and said, hey, we saw something on your show. We really liked it. We'd like to share it with our staff. Is that okay? And I was thrilled to be able to say, yes, we hope you share it with your staff. How can we help you to share it with your staff? Our show is meant to be a free resource, and we want you to get information, and we want you to get the information that you want. So be a part of it. Interact with us. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you're looking for. Tell us what you're frustrated with. Tell us what you're celebrating, because you're invited to this party. In fact, you are this party. We're really, just trying to be here with you and help to facilitate the party, right? So I hope that you will participate. Make sure that you do that in whatever way is conducive to you. But of course, that www.autism-live.com, the forum there, that white box is open now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, I mentioned that we don't take your private information to send you anything from that site. We just don't. But if you wanted to be included on our newsletter mailing list, you can do that by going to our Facebook page. Go to Facebook and put in Autism Live. We have a bunch of things that are on that page that are sort of behind the scenes. Whenever we have, a sparkly guest, we take pictures behind the scenes. And if you sign up on that page for the newsletter, you will have access to a lot more things, and even some contests that we run where we're starting to give away a lot of really fun stuff. And I know some of you have won things from our newsletter, some really exciting things. So I hope that if you're looking for more information, that you can sign up for the free newsletter. And by the way, it comes to you once a month. It's not one of those things where you get endless emails, right? I know what that's like. I don't like that either. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it'll be time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and hopefully it will be with Shannon and Nancy. If not, Nancy's stuck in traffic, but she will be with us eventually, so stick with us.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod, and my friend Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is going to be with us in just a minute. She is stuck in traffic, and she's probably texting me right now because she has had a morning, that woman, and I'll let her tell you. But, Nancy, she's here, but there's no parking. Yes, I ran into that problem this morning too. We got a lot going on here in the building and there is no parking. So she should be up here in just a minute. I'm going to take a moment for shameless sort of self-promotion. It's not really self-promotion, but closely related. You'll see what I'm talking about. Last fall, I was asked here by someone that they were doing a t-shirt contest, and I didn't even know who the company was with, but somebody came to me and said, does Jem draw? And I said, well, yes, Jem draws. Of course Jem draws. And this is sort of going to be our theme for the show today about kids and autism and art. And I said, yeah, of course he draws. They didn't ask me, can you recognize things that he draws? Is he a great artist or anything like that? And I was glad, because as a mother, I really don't want to have to answer that question, because, we don't want to in any way sound like our children are anything other than the brilliant geniuses that they are, but they can't be good at everything, right? So in any case, they said, would you mind having Jem do a couple of drawings? We're doing this contest for a t-shirt design, and they want one from a boy and one from a girl, and can you ask him to participate in the contest along with all the other kids? I said, sure, I can do that. And then I forgot about it for a couple of nights, and finally one night I sat down with him, and I had like 6 pieces of paper, and I had a bunch of crayons and some markers, and I said, okay, I need you to draw me some pictures. He says, what do you want me to draw the pictures of? And I said, well, it would be something on a t-shirt. And he said, can I draw a robot? And I said, absolutely, draw a robot. He says, can I draw a spaceship? And I said, draw a spaceship. He said, I want to draw planets. So the first thing that he did was he drew this robot, and you're going to see it in a second. And then he drew this spaceship that was amazing. The robot was amazing. I didn't get it at first, the way he was drawing it. There it is. I didn't understand what he was doing it, because he was doing it 3D. And I said, what are you doing? That's a robot? I didn't get it. Then he drew the spaceship, then he drew the planets, and then he drew a picture of our dog. Now, by the time he got to the planets, he had no idea what he was drawing. And when he drew the dog, listen, if I saved that picture and showed it to you, you would have been like, that's a dog. But for whatever reason, he drew this really cool robot. And so he won the boy portion of the contest, and Paper Clouds Apparel put his robot on a whole line of t-shirts, and they sold them for 2 weeks in the beginning of January. And the money that was raised from it, and by the way, Paper Clouds Apparel, we need to have Robert back on next week. They're an amazing organization, and they do this with organizations around the country as a fundraiser. So they make the shirt, and a large portion of the proceeds go to whatever organization they're promoting, and then the t-shirts get sold and they move on to the next one, right? And also they hire a lot of people who have some form of disability to do their packaging and things like that. They create jobs. So this is a great organization. So, but in any case, we had known that the t-shirts were going to get done. There's Paper Clouds Apparel. Check them out. We knew that the t-shirts were going to get done, and they were selling for the first 2 weeks in January. And if you watch the show, my mother died, and this is how bad. I was away because my mother had died. My husband remembered to order one of the t-shirts. I am the mother of the child who drew I didn't get a t-shirt because I didn't get it ordered, because I was so with my mom dying. And I felt horrible about it, but we had one my husband had ordered one, and he had said to me, do you want me to order one for you? He even had asked me, and I said, no, because I want to pick out and it didn't happen. And I felt terrible. She's here. Good. So in any case, they emailed me yesterday and said that starting next Monday, they're going to be selling them again, only this time they're going to benefit Act Today. And this time they're going to be on hats and tote bags. And so many people overwhelmingly had asked for t-shirts that were girl cut. So they're doing that. There's a lovely girl cut one in green. I don't know, Emily, if you have that picture that you can show them. But I want to encourage everybody that starting on Monday, you can order these t-shirts. They are pricier than your average t-shirt. I'm just going to warn you of that, because they're made out of bamboo. I didn't really get it when I saw the price, and it was my kid's artwork, and I didn't get it. But I have felt my husband's t-shirt, and we all deserve to be treated to one of these t-shirts or more. So in any case, we're going to talk more about that, but I understand Nancy has found a parking space, and she's here. We're going to take a short break. She's banging on the door. She wants in. Let's take a short break and get her in here so we can do In the News. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away. It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT.
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received a grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Aspergers, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back. Look who I found.
Hi, I'm here. It was a rough day.
You've had a really rough
day. My husband's in the hospital having a procedure, something replaced, a stent of some sort, which they say he'll be out at the end of the day. So prayers, keep him in.
Yes, absolutely.
And good things going his way. And I told you it gives me a sense of normalcy to come in here and to work. And I was also telling you, of course, I am picking him up at the end of the day. I will go to get him. I don't want him to drive home after surgery. He's done that before.
Oh, my goodness.
But anyway, I was telling you also that we just awarded $50,000 worth of grants to families. I wish it was $5 million more. I wish it was $5 billion more. Minimum $5 million, but at least it would be be nice to have 500,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just was what we could do this time.
Yeah.
And looking at some of the grant requests always makes me realize what so many of you out there are going through, and makes me grateful that I have had the advantages that I have had with Wyatt. And it makes me never take a moment for granted. And the courage of some of our parents out there to not only do what they do for their kids, but to put it, you know, filling out this grant request isn't even easy. You got to have documents. You got to have, I mean, we're sorry to make it an effort, but we have to do those things because we're a charity. But it just touches me to see how fiercely these parents love their children and want them to get help and treatment. And we hope we can continue to do that.
Yeah, it's like the best of times, worst of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you think, I wish it was so much more, but how many lives did it impact in
Aren't
so
you
many
glad
ways?
that we can tear up? Because when you hate to be like a news anchor, can you imagine Brian Williams every night if he did the news like we do this show? And then 16 minors.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can't even imagine. No, we get the freedom
we
to
laugh,
do that.
we cry.
Because I'm just a hormone on a leash these days. That's who I am.
Okay. I do have to say something funny before we go into the news.
Yeah.
Shannon and I were talking about how we can make a statement and in a certain situation, with our state government, about some bills that need to be passed. And your sister or your niece said, go topless.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, what's that going to prove, except we're the only two women in LA that haven't had
surgery. Yes, I guess so. That's well, and I said we couldn't do that because I breastfed too long. Things have gone too far south. I think they have when they fuzz things, they would have to fuzz way
or as
too
Vicki
much.
Lawrence used to say, there's enough violence on television.
Exactly. Exactly. So we need to not do that. But we are looking for ideas. If somebody, you know, we're two kind of funny, outrageous chicks, and we're willing to step outside and draw outside the lines. We need to get the attention of Governor Jerry Brown because there's some stuff going on. We covered some of it last week with you know, a wonderful, wonderful person who talks to us about policies, Julie Cornack, I'm talking about. And
she's one of my idols because I learned from her when we go to Sacramento.
I always say she's got a beautiful mind.
I know.
You know that movie? She's got a beautiful mind and can explain things to me. But in any case, we need to get Jerry Brown's attention that things are going in the wrong direction for autism families, and we feel very strongly that there is a question of, we're hearing fiscal responsibility, and we want to be fiscally responsible too, but you need to have the information because if spending $5 now saves you $5,000 later on, then the fiscally responsible thing to do is spend the $5 now.
Exactly.
And that really is the comparison with autism.
Of course.
So we really want to get Governor Brown's attention, and we're looking for suggestions. If you have a suggestion of what you think Nancy and I could do to get Jerry Brown's attention.
Besides go
topless or
scale the Capitol building. I was doing research on this for Shannon on civil disobedience, and
she had me on the floor.
We can't afford to get arrested.
No, we
That's
can't.
the problem. Our kids need us. Wyatt and Jem need us, and our husbands kind of do too.
I don't mind being arrested, but I don't want to be arrested and have to go to jail for.
I would actually be proud to do civil disobedience or something I believed in. I mean, let's say no slackers in the civil disobedience department.
No.
You know, I mean, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi.
Yes.
These are great. Nelson Mandela. Heroes all, and all practiced civil disobedience because they disagreed with the laws that their state or country was enacting. It's a very moral thing to do.
Absolutely.
But we can't afford to go to jail.
Right. And I'm only laughing because Nancy sent me the funniest email that I absolutely couldn't breathe. It had me on the floor about all these things about civil disobedience. I cannot wait till your book comes out because you make me howl. And that, you know what, and there are not that many people in life who just regularly can make me laugh so hard that I have to cross my legs because you know what might happen. And Nancy is one of those people. In any case, we digress.
We do.
I digress.
Let's figure out where we're going to go here.
Yes.
The TRICARE situation, do we want to talk about more
let's
just stay on that tangent for a minute.
Yeah, let's stay on that tangent about
because
support for...
I'm kind of passionate about this one because we did start the first campaign to help military families in the country.
Absolutely. So people understand that military families, the insurance that they have is called TRICARE. And that we've got a report here that TRICARE cuts will hurt at-risk military children, lawmakers are saying. So do you want to take the lead on this one?
Yes, there's some new rules for TRICARE, the military insurance, as you explained, that will limit the ability of thousands of military children with developmental disabilities, primarily autism, to get the therapy and care they need. 2 U.S. senators, this is not just, mom screaming into the wind. This is 2 U.S. senators and an advocacy group, which is Autism Speaks. Now, Karen Driscoll, who is the Associate Director for Government Affairs and Military Relations, she started Act Today for Military Families with me.
Yes.
And let me tell you, if there's ever a person that you want to go into battle with, it's Karen Driscoll.
With her on your side.
With her on your side.
You don't want to go against her. Absolutely.
And married to Colonel Jerome Driscoll, hero, military hero, Marine. And she is fierce. And if she says, quote, military families deserve better, well, you're damn right they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is a real great American woman with a son with autism and 2 other children whose husband constantly is out there serving our country in command of many Marine battalions.
Yeah.
And she is working so hard for these military families. We cannot afford to have these children left out in the cold. 23,000 TRICARE beneficiaries that will be left out in the cold, and we can't do it. So,
and there's also a question. My understanding of it is that with all insurance, the reason why autism didn't have to be covered by insurance for so long was because there was quote unquote no treatment that was effective. Then when ABA was shown to be effective, what insurance companies have plugged in is that your child has to make measurable progress in order to continue getting funding. And while we understand the letter of that, and all of our children should be making measurable progress. There is the difficulty with military families, and one of the concerns is that this measurable progress being applied to military children needs to be looked at very carefully, because we know that these kids experience regressions because if they have to move, so this is not a fair criteria. It's not a fair fight.
And I'm assuming that because Autism Speaks is very concerned about this, and Karen is out talking about it, that they're going to be doing some sort of Autism Votes initiative. So we'll keep you informed on that, on ways, what you can do about this, because this particular story doesn't say, but the 2 senators are Gillibrand and Murray, and Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Patty Murray. So let's hope that they can get some progress on this. We'll keep you informed on that one.
Yeah, again, it's education, I think. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the Racine woman who was charged with, because I know we both had sort of initial different reactions, and I always love that about you. I'm always going to get a different point of view, and I absolutely love that. You may have heard that a Racine woman was charged last week with locking her autistic son in her basement, using a dog collar to shock him, and giving him a bucket to use as a toilet. This was reported in the Racine Journal-Times. Terry L. Allen, 51, was charged with subjecting an at-risk individual to abuse, punishable by up to 1.5 years in prison, the article said. Her son is an adult with Aspergers syndrome and attention deficit hyperactive disorder. The welfare found out about it because a relative requested that they check. For any of you who have ever thought about having a family member turned in because you thought something was happening, this is one of the reasons why you should. Welfare came to check, and when they talked to Alan, she allegedly said that she fed her son through a hole and lets him out of the basement to brush his teeth and wash his face only when he knocks. Now, this story was brought to my attention by our viewer Mike Hipple, who watches the show, and
then the Senator Steinberg's office, his person sent it to me.
Interesting.
Well. Yeah.
And the discussion that I had with my kipple, one of the things that we were talking about is, okay, so she had him locked up in the basement for 2 years, but she was sentenced to 1.5 years. And the injustice of, my initial reaction was, don't you think, she had him locked up for 2 years. They can't lock her up for 2 years. That was my initial gut thing about, how about if she spends 2 years in the basement? Let's try that on for size. You are a much more giving, caring, because you saw the other side of it, and I'm glad.
I told you my initial reaction was I wanted to say she should be locked up for 20 years in a basement, but then within seconds I said, the best example I can give you. Mike Tyson said, my husband did a documentary on him, and he said, you don't raise a pit bull and expect it to be a lap dog.
Yeah.
We're creating these situations. Yeah. Our culture, our society. And you don't put a dog out in a yard with nothing and chain it and expect that dog to be nice.
Yeah.
So this mother, to me, is that dog. I'm sorry.
And I was
going to
say, your analogy is that the mom is the dog because she wasn't given any tools.
No.
She didn't know what to do with him.
Now, she may be ignorant, and it may be an evil, despicable thing she did.
Yeah.
But we're assuming this mother never tried to help her son. We're assuming that she wasn't beaten up by her son.
Right.
Which could have happened. Hello.
Absolutely.
And we're assuming the worst about the mother. And I say, our culture, our country we're going to see more of this. That's all. And it's tragic, and we better stop. We better help people.
When you said something, it reminded me that the problem isn't just with the child and the behavior with the child. It's making sure that enough people get educated so that they know what to do with a child that's like this.
Let me tell you, there's cases like this we don't know about all over the country.
Well, listen, I know I saw on Facebook the other day, and I talked to my husband about it, it's been keeping me up at night, that a woman wrote in and said, I've got a neurotypical child and I've got a child on the spectrum, and I need somebody to help me. I need somebody to take this child because I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this, and I can't deal. And they're not in this country, and there were a lot of people who were rushing and saying, well, can I do? How can I help you? I'll come over. You take a break. So I know that people are stepping up, and I thought it was incredibly courageous of her because I know it's going to come back on her. And there were some people who wrote in and said, you need to suck it up, girl. But I think we've all had at least a sliver of a moment where we've at least questioned, can I deal with this? Can I do this?
Of course. We wouldn't be human if we didn't say that. If we have children that have been particularly challenging, but let's face it, it's a very difficult, no matter what issues your child has. And so I say, let's help this person. Yeah. Let's help the total family, because until the family heals, we will have no healing.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Now, we wanted to talk about the Seattle Children's Hospital advertisement.
Yes, because I think that's an interesting one as well.
Yes.
And
I think I've got a little bit of a different take on this one as well. But let's clue the viewers in on what happened.
Okay, Seattle Children's Hospital had ads running that said, let's wipe out cancer, diabetes, and autism in his lifetime, showing a boy. And basically advocates from the community were outraged, saying there's no distinction between autism and autistic people. This is Matt Young, who is Autistic Self-Advocacy Network's Washington chapter. And he said, you're talking about wiping out autistic people. Right. That basically there's no distinction between that. But I'm like, well, then you're talking about wiping out people with cancer, too. You're talking about wiping out people with diabetes, too. And I don't think they meant that. Yeah. And Rick Rollins, who is a lobbyist for autism legislation up in Sacramento, who has an adult son and is just a brilliant, incredible guy. Yeah. Devoted his life to this cause of helping Californians get the best they can for their kids with autism. Yeah. He said it great. Fine. This is not a mandatory cure requirement. Just get out of the way of those who would die to give our children a fighting chance for a normal life. For those who like having autism, more power to you.
Yeah.
Great.
It's a difficult argument because on the one hand, because we have such a spectrum, and this comes up every time there's any kind of autism forum, somebody says something about, well, we want to find the answers because we want to stop this, we want to stop autism, we want to defeat autism, we want to cure autism, whatever the words are. You know, we need to find out the causes so that we can prevent this from happening. And there is always, and thank goodness, there is always somebody who is on the spectrum who says, whoa, you're talking about wiping me out, and I don't want to be wiped out, and I don't want to be cured, and I'm just fine, and don't use that language because I take offense to it. Now, when I was a mom with a young child diagnosed with autism, I was like, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to get over that? Because we need to find the answers, and if you guys are going to block us, right, this thing, I'm in a different place now. Sure. I got to be honest, because Jem is older, and I've met so many individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and for the longest time I was looking at them and saying, you need to allow us to use the language that we need to use to get the help that we need. And what I would always say to those people is, you understand I'm talking about the disabling aspects of autism. Right. If my child could grow up to be like you, woohoo.
I know, I would say that
right?
too.
You know, and they would say, oh, then I understand where you're coming from. But I would have to put it in those terms. And what I've come to in the last even 6 months is, they have a right to feel however they do. Of course they do. And they have a right to say, here is the language that I want you to use, and here is the language that I want you to not use when you're talking about me and my disorder.
Okay.
And
I'm with you on that.
And that if it is a matter of, it just makes it tougher for us. Well, I mean, let's admit it. It makes it tougher for us.
But it also makes us more compassionate and more understanding.
Right. But if we have to, we need to educate ourselves first and then educate the rest of the world that it is not okay to say wipe out autism. We can say wipe out the disabling aspects of autism.
I heard Dr. Syed Naqvi, who is a psychiatrist that specializes in autism, out of Cedars, and I heard him say, imagine a world with no autism. I wouldn't want to. You know, I mean, imagine the world with no Temple Grandin.
And Temple Grandin
the world
says,
with, well, look at all of the great, wonderful. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly it's a very hard line. Yes. We as mothers of children with autism that would love to see the more disturbing aspects, the more detrimental aspects of those behaviors go away, and the lack of accommodations in our culture. Because here was my point. The world is not made for, it's made for neurotypicals, and it has not come around to helping and living and accepting those with autism. It hasn't yet. So until it does, until we find that utopia, which well, even beyond that, I mean, because but I look at my son, and I know that, you probably have experienced this too. There are moments when my son is frustrated and in tears because he can't do what he wants to do. All the time.
He can't communicate the way he wants to. He can't make the friend the way he wants to. He doesn't understand what's different. That's the part of autism that I want to change. And so I've started saying
I'm going to change this part, the scratches I got all over me a week and a half ago because my son had a meltdown, worse he's had out of the blue in 2 years.
But so what I've started saying is the disabling aspects of autism. And I want to encourage other people to say, because I've asked my friends and said, do you have a problem with that? And they've said, no, say that. There are disabling aspects to autism.
You're good.
No.
Yes, you are.
I wanted to lock the mom up. I'm not good. I'm not good at all. But different point of view on it that I've gotten from my friends who are on the spectrum. And that I'm trying to remember to take them into consideration when I say things, because it is a big spectrum. And I want people to take my feelings into consideration when they say things.
It's about respecting each other.
It is. It is. Okay. So
we have a guest, and
we do have a guest, and we've gone a little bit late. So let's. Should we take a break and go on to that? We had one more story, but shall we hold off on that?
Yeah, I think. Let's.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get Diane Bernstein in here,
and because we're going to be talking about art and autism,
and that'll be interesting because a lot of what makes our kids brilliant in art is that they are on the spectrum, my son included. He's a great artist, and I think that that's just his thing. He just goes there when he needs to express.
Awesome. So stick with us. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are here at the Gluten Free Expo. We're really excited about it. Can't wait to give you a look at all the tasty things there are to try. We are here at the Breads from Anna booth. You have been helping my family for a long time. So first of all, tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Okay, well, I was diagnosed at age 16 with type 1 diabetes, and then in my 30s I got celiac disease, and a lot of the products that existed at that point just weren't working for me. So I made my first mix, which was gluten, soy, rice, and nut-free. And then my sister was diagnosed with celiac, and she has Hashimoto's, so she can't digest lactose, and she was allergic to corn. So I made a mix for her, and I had these 2 little mixes on my website, and then the autism community started reaching out to me for a yeast-free mix. And then my nephew was diagnosed with autism. So we have stuck to really trying to make our products as free as possible of the top 8 allergens. We're free of so many of those trigger foods that they work well for these kids. And the bean flours we use are pre-soaked, so they're easier to digest.
And it tastes good. That's the most important thing. It tastes really good.
And I truly believe there's healing that happens from the pleasure that you get from eating, and I want people to feel that they're not making a sacrifice by having to be on a special diet.
Where can people get them?
There is a store locator on our website, so you can check that out. And we encourage people to ask stores to bring it in if they have a store they like to shop at that we're not in.
We are here right now at the Bob's Red Mill Natural Foods booth. You know, you've heard me talk about them on the show before. I love them.
The 2 hot items are coconut flour and almond flour. They're just rocking because they please a lot of audiences. They've got the gluten-free. They please the paleo. They're not grain, so they can please a lot of audiences. And as far as the mixes, you know, we're always the pizza crust, the cornbread, and then our oats are still just right up there. So, and we have over 100 products now that are certified gluten-free. So we're trying to please all audiences with that.
We are here at one of the most popular booths, the Udi's booth. Tell us some of the things that might be good for a GFCF diet.
Perfect. So all of our products, with the exception of the cookies and the brownie bites, are milk-free, casein-free, and they're made in separate, dedicated facilities. So basically anything here other than cookies and brownie bites is good. For kids, the granola, because it's chocolate. And then we have things like double vanilla muffins that can double as cupcakes. And if you can do like a sugar-free frosting, milk-free frosting, then it's even better.
We are here with the author of Gluten is My and a very incendiary title.
Well, when I was diagnosed with celiac 2.5 years ago, my initial reaction was, "What? Are you serious that I can no longer eat a major food group?" It blew my mind, and everywhere I looked, I found inspirational, yay, yay, and I was like, this will not do. And I instantly started my blog, Gluten is My out of total craziness, and it developed into a book.
The subtitle of it is Rants, Recipes, and Ridiculousness for the Gluten-Free. So a little bit of everything then, stories and recipes.
Yes, it's personal stories. It's a guide on how to get through this time in your life. It's also, there's information if your child is diagnosed, there's travel information, and there's also a chapter on the future of gluten-free and what it means for all of us that are suffering through a lack of donuts.
We are here at the Enjoy Life booth. Tell us about what Plentals are. We just tried it, and it rocked our world.
Well, Plentals are a lentil-based snack, and the great thing about Plentals is 3 of the 4 flavors are dairy-free. So there's no gluten, there's no casein. All of our products are gluten-free and free of the 8 common allergens, which means they're free of egg, dairy, wheat, soy, peanut, tree nut, fish, and shellfish.
But it's not the only product that you guys have. You have a wide range of products that you guys carry, right?
That's right. We make 38 different products. Again, everything that we make is certified gluten-free as well as free of the 8 common allergens. So the great thing about Enjoy Life is when you see the Enjoy Life red logo on any package, you know it's safe, and you know it's safe for everybody. And, a lot of people ask us, well, how do you make it taste so good? Because if it doesn't taste great, no one cares. And so we like to tell them it's a little bit of magic. It's a whole lot of love that we're able to do this and replicate replicate all these different flavors. So for instance, we have a brand new line of decadent bars, which are s'mores, cinnamon bun, cherry cobbler, and chocolate sun butter. And again, all free of the 8 common allergens. The other thing with all of our products, they're all verified non-GMO. So we have the most gluten-free products that are verified non-GMO by the Non-GMO Project.
For more information about a healthy, tasty, gluten-free diet, make sure to watch our cooking segment, What's Left, co-sponsored by Taka. Welcome back.
We're back. We've been chatting with our guest, Diane Bernstein.
We're so thrilled to have you here, and you've got a very exciting story to tell us that has to do with art and autism and your journey with both, and how you've arrived at somebody who is teaching and doing individualized programs with art with children on the autism spectrum. But let's back up a little bit and tell us a little bit about your journey, how you came to be an artist.
Well, art's a part of my heart, a part of my life, and I did receive excellent training at the Art Center College of Design, and I went into a very intensive technical advertising design program, which does not make any sense for being a mom who I am now.
Right.
But back in the day, you were just a single woman.
We've all had many lives, many of us, and then we find a way to change, adapt what we do to working in the field of autism, right?
Yes. So then with fine art, it was a lot different. That I could see in a group class setting, I could see a model of teaching and learning children that I wanted to adapt, that I wanted to make my own and have my own students. And it pretty much the difference being is the individual approach versus a group. I still provide the structure, I still provide all the techniques, but it's really tapping into that child's interest that you can do maybe more on an individual or very small group basis.
And so you started that with typical children.
Yes. And
then tell us about your son and how autism came into your world.
Okay, my son, he's an artist in his own right, in his the way he designs and thinks in colors, never flat colors. It's all like mixing, like Matisse.
And his name?
And his name is Jeremy Bernstein, and he's now the ambassador for 2012. 13 naturally autistic people in Canada. And
amazing. He's how old is he now?
13 and a half.
13. Wow.
In fact, this Saturday he's having a show at Grassroots with his jewelry. And so this is where he's at now. He's had about maybe 8-10 shows. He's been to Canada several times. He's co-hosted. So he really feels very famous and really built up self-esteem. But the original, where this came from is, I'm not going to do it your way, Mom. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to find what I like. And we started going to Kids Space Museum in Pasadena, where he just naturally in the environment found things that he liked, rocks and shells. And
when he was very young.
Yeah,
now, had he been diagnosed with autism at this point?
No, earlier. But for us, it was late.
Age?
It was 4.5. At that time, that was late.
Okay. Well, my son was diagnosed at 3, but didn't start getting really any treatment till 4.5. So
everything happened at school and regional center, and everything coming in on board. But the one thing that did help him with the public school setting is in 4th grade they had a Dreams to Jobs component, and he made a business plan. And that business plan is where he said, I want to work with others with disabilities. He actually he named a girlfriend at the time. And we had my brother who was in Brazil who was supplying us with beautiful Brazilian beads. So we had, and then also because I've been a volunteer at the Division of Special Education, I started working there as a parent liaison. And so I started to know some of the people and organizations in the community, and it became more natural to have a show, to be able to, call up someone and say, hey, my child does this. Would you have a little table for him? And so Whole Foods did something as well. I mentioned a lot of health food stores because my son really loves to eat and munch, so that was natural.
Well, I met your son at Stephanie's Day.
Yes.
And he is just a really delightful young man, and he was really sweet with my son Wyatt. He was like, Wyatt, hi, I'm Jeremy. Do you remember? And then he kind of followed Wyatt around because Wyatt was kind of roaming a little bit, and eloping a bit. So he was kind of helping me, and he's just a darling boy.
But some of those social skills, those are the things that he didn't receive in school. When he's now in a non-public school, and all of this self-esteem building experiences has been out. So he's probably his best gift to the world in general is that he includes himself. I'm a part of this world, and here I am. And for me as a parent, it was really tough because there was no stopping him. He would just, when he was younger, I was afraid of the strangers. But as he's getting older, that very same thing that was controversial about him wanting to meet everybody in the world, for fun, we go to dog parks because that's just who he is. Yeah. And so tapping into who he is and giving him freedom to be who he is, the more I can do that as a parent, the more self-esteem he builds up, the more he's a part of this world. It doesn't have anything to do about his mommy doing this or that. It's about him, and he has his own following and people that really care and support him, and the whole community in Canada, for example.
Well, so it was interesting when we were talking about this idea of the campaign. I just want to ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how do you feel about that? That when someone says, let's wipe out, as a mom whose child has flourished, having autism, how do you feel about a campaign that says, let's wipe out autism, cancer, and diabetes in their lifetime?
Are you kidding me? What are we going to do? Wipe out hope and joy? Did anybody ever get married here and you were terrified, but it was a mixed blessing? Some of life's best moments are those precarious little delicate ride. I heard you talking earlier about some of the really difficult times. When you get the joys, they are amazing.
And I agree with you. I do. And I live that. And so does Shannon. But Diane, there are a lot of families out there that don't live that don't have the resources and can't cope because they don't have access to any. I mean, even exposing their children to art is tough. So anyway, that's interesting. But you certainly are an example of a mother who has taken the lead of her child. But it does sound like Jeremy does he have Asperger's, or is he
is actual differently abled, as you would say.
Yeah.
He's differently abled with autism, ADHD, and he'll say a little tiny bit of Tourette's. He'll even say that. Yeah. And he'll be proud, and he'll tell people about himself, and I'm like, wait, do you want to tell this person? But he's still saying, I'm a person, how many do you know of kids in business? And sometimes I have to think, it's sometimes even more successful when somebody overcomes so many obstacles and difficulties. I was about to say disabilities. But that's what makes them a stronger person.
You know what I think we should go back to? When my younger brother, who had Down syndrome, was going to school, they called it a school for exceptional children.
Yeah.
What happened to that phrase, exceptional?
I don't know. And it seems like it would be the politically correct thing.
I know.
And so
maybe we should bring
that
it back.
went away and became special needs.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us, I don't get offended by that, but I prefer differently abled.
Yeah.
I prefer exceptional.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people who
just
refer
such
to
a
their
lovely
children
way
as
to look at it,
exceptional and
isn't it?
twice exceptional. But I kind of want to go back.
Let's go back to the art.
Yeah, I want to go back to talking about, so here you have a child, and you, because you're an artist, you're doing art things with him, even before he's diagnosed. But then he gets a diagnosis, and did that make you want to do more art things with you, or did you have that moment of grief and saying, maybe my child isn't going to be able to do the things that I thought that he was going to do, or did you just skip past that and just do more art with him?
Yes and no. I don't do the art with him. It's him doing the art. I do have a jewelry teacher. As a matter of fact, she's a graduate of the help group, so she also gets him, and she's younger, and she can say the same thing I would say, but from a different perspective.
So you don't actually teach him?
No, but I'm the one who's there with him at the shows. I'm the one setting up the shows, getting ready for the shows with him. But he is doing much more of that, of the taking on of the business model as he gets older, and also with his communications with everybody, because it takes a lot of communication. He recently was at the mayor's office in April, and I had set up. He had brought back 2 awards from 2 attendees. May I say beautiful names of these award winners? Sure. Cooper Burrell in Visual Arts and Jeremy Cecil Kira in Community Achievement.
Chantal's son.
Exactly. So we set up with the families that they would have an award ceremony here in April during the Autism Awards month, and this is going to be at the Autism Day at City Hall. So yes, I did that, but he saw me do all of that. He's seeing me do it. He's seeing the communications. So the modeling mode, yes, I've got the initial as a parent, the responsibility as the liaison in this thing, but he's partnering and he's modeling, and if you saw the video of him there and you saw the conversations, the natural conversations, it was so much him as the leader and including everybody in his community, and it was just
we need
the
to,
highest.
We
the
need
highest
to
one of
show
the highest.
Jeremy in action sometime.
Yeah. Well, and my point is, though, I think because you're an artist, you were probably already doing things with him. There are people out there who, they're starting their kids with crayons, and the child eats the crayons, and then the crayons go away, and then there's no more art.
May I address some of those issues? Some of the students that I've had, I'm not going to mention names, they're lovely, but they've had really difficulty accessing part of the process. So you have to find out what part of it. I had one child who really needed to blow into a balloon at a certain point because of dealing with sitting in the chair. Well, once that part was out of the way, the drawing part, and we started to do less, we started painting with the brush because the painting was so flowing and natural, and there was no problem with the process of that. The access just came, and you didn't have some of those issues. So sometimes finding out what the styles are that somebody needs to work with, and that's also good because I do know myself, and I do know how I like to work, and I still really enjoy. I do late night drawing workshops and with the gallery girls, and we do figurative drawing and workshops, and so I still have that delight in my life. So I know the pleasure. And I know what can be difficult. I know for myself, time has been a factor. So whatever the factor is, there's ways to work around it. I could probably give you another example of another, student or child, but it's the idea
it's individual,
access.
Which is why I talked to you about. I said I'd love for you to work with my son because and you know what an artist Wyatt is.
Yes.
Just an incredible artist. But he loves splashing water. That's his STEM.
Oh, that's the one.
And really?
No, splashing.
So
tearing.
he will splash repeatedly before he puts he has to have that brush completely clean of the paint before he goes into the other color. He doesn't put the colors out, and he's obsessive about it. And of course you could correct that, or you could just watch this unfold, which I have done to amazing effect. He's got an egg carton series that is out of this world that he has done all the different. I'll bring some of them in. They're amazing. And he used to tear things, and I used to think, what are you doing? He was building a collage. Wow. He once put sand all over a painting, and I was like, what are you doing? And I could have stopped that. He then painted over the sand, and it gave it texture. So I think you're talking about respecting, right? Their individual.
Respecting and accessing the art is different, and who's to say that a child shouldn't have that process on their terms, right? As long as they keep safe,
Exactly. Right. So that's what you would advocate for the parent. What advice would you give the parent at home that's watching about how if you could tell them how you developed Jeremy in just a few sentences, like
or how to help the children access art,
or how to help our children on the spectrum access art is a great question.
Well, it's kind of like having that cozy corner, that cozy space in art that, maybe you can make a mess in a certain area. You find a little spot and you can use materials perhaps not as they've designed to use. Maybe the crayons are going to end up being sculpturally put together or something different that you never even thought of. And it may really look strange to you, but it feels good. If personally, as an artist, if I don't do my art in some way, I make a terrible mess in the kitchen cooking or something, because it's something that needs to be expressed, and it's like almost like a human right, and it doesn't have to be a perfect way. It's some people would say it's very therapeutic, but it's not so much that you're going to analyze or judge it, that you're going to feel it and express it. And also it does help with some darker feelings as well, because sometimes there's not a place to be just completely, happy all the time. And sometimes that's like writing, sometimes you need to be coming from a different point of view, and it does help other areas.
You're talking about respecting that artist, and all artists are such a combination of pain and joy and all of the most intense human feelings, and our children are no exception.
Right. So
know?
making that safe space for them.
Yeah.
Taking one
really.
part of the house and saying, here the rules are a little bit different. You can do what you need to do here.
And don't judge too quickly is what I'm getting. Let it develop. So I'm really interested in talking to you about Wyatt and maybe, having you take a look at him and him painting and seeing what you think. So we're going to follow up on that.
How can families, if a family is interested in talking to you further about what you do or having a child work with you, where can they contact you?
Well, I'm quite visible on Facebook, LinkedIn, but you'll find me at Grassroots Natural Market and Kitchen this Saturday from 11 to 3. Jeremy will be having a show, and you can see his jewelry.
Is there a website they can go to?
The Grassroots.
Grassroots
Natural Market and Kitchen.
Okay, but
South
what about
Pasadena.
you and Jeremy? You both have your own.
That is something that we put on our wish list.
Okay.
Because we are trying to fundraise to go back to Canada, and he has a GoFundMe campaign, and he wrote on his GoFundMe campaign and has a picture of him.
Is that on
making
social
jewelry.
media?
That one, GoFundMe.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
But they can find you on Facebook.
Facebook, LinkedIn.
Diane
phone number.
Bernstein.
We're going to give my phone number. We're going to give my email.
Okay. We're going to get that to Emily. So
Emily's
people,
got it on the screen.
She's
right
got
now.
it.
Okay.
So if people have more questions, because we have people watch us all over the world, so they can't all get to Pasadena.
And I'm
this
sure
week.
we brought up some really interesting. Today's been really an interesting conversation.
It's been different
we
perspectives
really different
about where our
perspectives,
kids are.
and I think opening ourselves up to considering a different point of view.
Yeah,
right?
looking at it in a different way, and giving our kids the space to be and express themselves however they are, which is, I think something that we all should be open to.
We all need to be open to.
Whatever ability that our children are at. That doesn't mean that we can't strive for progress in areas that are challenging, but allowing them to be and express themselves how they are.
So thank you for being with us today.
Oh, wonderful pleasure to be here.
We're going to take a break
and share with
you're
all
going
of
to
you.
be back. You're going to. I want you to talk about the T-shirts one more time.
Okay.
So people get it.
We'll finish out the show. You have to leave.
I have to leave. Yeah.
But
So
thank
Diane
you so
and I
much
are
for both of you for being here.
See you next week. See everybody next week.
But I'll be back in just a minute, so stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of July, I figured we're going to do something again that's more for outdoorsiness since it's summertime and I know your kids are going to be home and you need some activities to do inside and outside. So for July, I figured we'd make a lantern. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are wax paper, an iron, crayons, scissors, popsicle sticks, pencil sharpener, a glue gun, and tape. What I did first is that I have my iron heating on medium heat, okay? Make sure you keep this far away from your child because I won't want them to get hurt. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to take my wax paper and I'm going to make 4 sheets. I'm going to cut out a thing that's about 12 inches long, okay? Now that I have my wax papers cut out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crayon, and if you have kids around, which I hope you do, I'm going to grab them and have them make some crayon shavings. What the shavings are going to end up doing is making it a design. And again, this is another time for you and your child to talk about colors. You can discuss like what would happen if you mix, some blue crayons and some yellow crayons. What would that produce? When you and your child have finally decided there's enough crayon shavings on your wax paper, what you're going to do next is you're going to take it and fold it in half. Now that I have it folded in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an old newspaper and then I'm going to sandwich it in between. And then with my iron on medium heat, I'm just going to have it gently on there just so the wax melts into the paper and becomes one thing. Let's take a peek inside. As you can see, all the crayons have melted into it, making this beautiful kind of like rainbow-ish color. Alright, now I'm going to do this with the other 3 that I've made, and then we're going to assemble our beautiful lantern. Alright? So here are my 4 finished panels that I'm ready to build into the lantern. So what I'm going to do is I have these popsicle sticks, and I'm going to build them into a square and glue them together with my hot glue gun. While you're building your lantern, it's a good opportunity to work on math skills with your child. You could discuss how many sides does a square have versus how many sides does a cube have. Okay, I'm going to do this another 3 more times, so I have one for every single side. Alright, well, now that I have these 4 different sides built, I am now going to take these wax paper things that I've built, and then I'm going to put glue on here and smash it on there, okay? I know the wax paper is way too big for it, but what we're gonna do later is trim it. All right, so now they're all done being glued together. Now I'm gonna take my scissors and trim along the outside. Now that the four sides are done, I'm gonna take some tape and I'm gonna line the edge of it so they will stay together to make my cube form. And voila, here's my lantern, but it's missing something. You're right, it's missing a light to illuminate it. So what I'm gonna put in here is an LED light. I'm definitely not gonna put a real candle or else this thing's gonna catch on fire, and that is a real safety hazard, okay? So, here's my little guy, and I'm gonna turn it on and let's see what happens. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that pretty nice? And it's not even dark yet. I would love if you shared your pictures of your finished crafts. But until then, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We've lost Nancy. Nancy's got places she's got to be because she's got a husband who's getting some surgical work done today. We're at the end of the show here, and I'm going to have Emily remind you of all the different ways that you can get in touch with us here as we continue on. Tomorrow, we have on the show with us, Angela Persicki is going to be with us, and we also have a woman who has won the Teacher of the Year Award for her work with children on the autism spectrum. So we're very excited. I'm not sure if I have the pronunciation of her name right. Elizabeth Doug. It might be Dugay. We're going to ask her tomorrow, but she won the Teacher of the Year Award, and so excited that we're going to have her here with us as well. In this world of, I always feel like it seems as though I'm teacher bashing here because sometimes I talk about the frustration of working with a school district when you've got a child on the autism spectrum. But I want to say again, former teacher, and I have nothing but respect for teachers, and that the vast majority of people who are teaching our children in the classroom are angels walking this earth. And I think that we have a perfect example tomorrow of a teacher who's getting it done. Because look, if they didn't have a real passion for teaching our kids, then they wouldn't be working when we know that what the salaries are for teachers. So thrilled to have her on the show tomorrow. Angela Persicki will be here with us as well. She's a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst. She's ready to take your questions. In fact, I'd love to be able to forward some to her tonight. So if you've got a question, something burning in your gut that you want to have a BCBA address, then I hope that you'll write into us as soon as possible. We will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern time. Do the math wherever you are in the world. Excited to be back then. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.